right, so it's 5:30 and I'm calling this meeting to order. First, a reminder that meetings of the Select Board are meetings conducted in public. They are not meetings of the public. Nonetheless, members of the public shall be afforded reasonable opportunities to express opinions about matters conducted by the Select Board, so long as order is maintained. The rules for public comment are: at the conclusion of a Select Board discussion on an agenda item, but before any action is taken, there may be 10 minutes afforded to public comment. Comments made by the public must be addressed to the chair, to the Select Board as a whole, and not to any individual members of the Select Board or members of the public. Members of the public must be acknowledged by the chair before speaking. If a member of the public has already spoken on a topic, they shall not be recognized again until others have first been given the opportunity to comment. Order and decorum shall be maintained throughout the meeting. Personal, impertinent, threatening, or profane remarks will not be tolerated. For those who are participating via Zoom, please note that chat is not an appropriate avenue for public comment. All public comments must be made verbally when acknowledged by the chair. Please silence all cell phones, and a reminder to all that the meeting is being recorded and may appear on the internet. So are there adjustments to the order of the agenda?
I have none.
Okay. Can I hear a motion to approve the minutes of September 18th, 2024?
So moved.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of September 18th, 2024. Are there any changes?
Since I was present, I'll abstain.
Okay, thank you, Fletcher. Any changes? Okay, hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And one abstention. Next, can I hear a motion to approve the warrants?
Make a motion to approve and execute the warrants to the treasurer upon completion of review.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve and execute the warrants upon completion of review. Karen?
Payroll warrant dated October 4th, 2024 in the amount of $23,558.19.
Any questions on the payroll?
Putting it out there that the fire department check on there.
Okay, thank you.
You do.
Anyone?
Where's the total on this one?
It's not here.
Oh,
It's-
okay.
I think it's because it's double-sided.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
what's
the total again?
$23,558.19.
all right. The reason that difference is there is because those are the people that don't take
Right.
direct deposit, right?
Correct.
Right,
Correct.
where did you find that?
No, I have another page. I guess.
Oh, you're special.
I know that,
For some reason, Karen, I just don't have the total number. Yeah.
Okay.
I think if you add those two numbers, you should get that 23.
Okay,
Yeah.
Just do that right
Yeah.
at the top.
I'm not quite sure what happened with your
Yeah.
packet.
I know,
It's-
I got slated.
Sorry. That should not happen to the vice chair.
Apology accepted.
Okay. All right. So, are there any other questions about the payroll? All right. Moving on.
Accounts payable dated September 21st through October 4th, 2024 in the amount of $399,428.82. So again, that was $399,428.82. On this warrant, you will see US Bank, $189,323.72. Those are bond payments for sewer and water and the fire station. $72,230.97, Powers Generator Service. That is for the 2 generators that we have a grant for. We have to send a deposit, they'll get them ordered, and then we'll get reimbursed when I send in the grant.
Okay.
And again, that was a 90-10 match on that grant, so. And one will come out of water and the other one's gonna come out of the sewer budget. Then I have KRT appraisals for $8,419.17. I don't believe they're done billing.
Yeah, they're probably, charging for BCA, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right, they are smaller, which is good.
Yep.
Firematic supply, $20,800. I'm gonna have to look that one up. What was that? Oh, that's for the Cascade. So that is the ARPA money that was obligated to purchase the Cascade for the fire department.
Okay.
And that whole setup finally came in. They ordered it in like March.
What's a cascade?
Do you wanna explain that, Russ?
It's a high-pressure pump that pumps out 6,000 pounds of pressure for the air packs.
Oh,
It's
okay.
also,
Yeah.
I believe, 3 bottles which is called the Cascade system.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that, yeah, I remember, okay, now I remember that. That was in disrepair and we were not using it, right? So we needed to replace it. Okay.
Right, we were going over
Yeah.
to Spofford to fill tanks.
Okay.
Or Westminster. Thank you, Russ.
Thank you for the explanation.
$10,472.04 is ESO Solutions. That is the software program. This is an annual renewal for the fire department. M&T Bank, $34,967.14. That is the last payment of one of our dump trucks. I think we only have one other dump truck that we're paying on at this time. And $18,292.46 is the lease for the excavator for the highway department. So, those are the major invoices for this warrant.
Okay.
And the next warrant will have the school payment in there, so that's gonna be another big one.
Okay. All right. Are there any questions, comments? Fletcher, do you have anything on the warrants?
No, thanks.
Okay. Anybody?
No.
All right, hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, moving on to public comments on items not on the agenda. Does the select board have anything to say?
I have one from the Equity Inclusion Committee for National Hispanic Heritage Month. If that's all right. All right. So the Equity Inclusion Advisory Committee would like to celebrate the deep history, contributions, and culture of people of Hispanic heritage. This year on September 15th, Governor Phil Scott proclaimed September 15th through October 15th as Hispanic and Latino Month. This proclamation acknowledges the increasing population of Hispanic Vermonters, their contributions towards our economy, arts, and cultural evolution, and Vermont's commitment to eliminating systemic barriers. President Lyndon B. Johnson in 1968 recognized September 15th and 16th as the start of National Hispanic Heritage Week. And in 1988, President Ronald Reagan expanded it to a month. The date starts in the middle of September to coincide with the independent states of several Latin American countries. Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and Nicaragua all proclaimed independence on September 15th, followed by Mexico on September 16th, and Chile on September 18th. Establishing Hispanic Heritage Month along these dates highlights and celebrates the historic achievements the community has made. Please join the Equity Inclusion Advisory Committee in recognizing and honoring our Hispanic and Latinx friends, family, and neighbors.
All right, thank you. And I would like to say that the reason we're having this meeting on today, as opposed to tomorrow, which is our normal, regularly scheduled meeting, is because tomorrow is the start of Rosh Hashanah. So happy Rosh Hashanah. Does anybody else have Anything?
Sure, I will read into the record some letters that we received as a select board. First, a letter from Lynn Weinstein to the select board and to whom it may concern. I'm writing this letter to read into the record in support of the chair of the select board. In my opinion, the chair is doing an excellent job of leading the board, of setting the following protocol, of listening to the constituents and other members of the board, and having the best intentions for our town as their goal. I have also witnessed the chair take responsibility for mistakes, apologize when they deemed appropriate, and set a strong and positive example. We are living in a time of oppositional politics. I greatly respect the chair's effort to keep the discourse in Putney civil while allowing different points of view to be voiced. A letter from Lisa Papazian. I want to thank and express my deep admiration for Aileen Schutz as our select board chair. She is my hero. As a public servant, she has shown incredible compassion and bravery, demanding fairness and civility publicly, which takes a kind of leadership we have not often seen in Putney in recent years. She is thoughtful, engaged, and honest, and not afraid to admit and then correct mistakes. This has been a challenging time in town, and I am grateful she is our board chair, and I am proud to be represented by her. With respect, Lisa Papazian. And the last letter came from Ruby McAdoo, and it says, I have watched over many months as the tensions have heightened at Town of Putney Select Board meetings. Some of the rising pressure is due to disagreements on specific issues, and some is simply conflicts in personality. In these past few months, I have felt a high degree of trust that our elected officials are working hard on our behalf. I have been particularly grateful for Eileen Schutz in her role as Select Board Chair. I have seen Eileen navigate conflict, acknowledge her own imperfections, and persevere to move town business forward. This is not an easy task, and I see Eileen's hard work as the Select Board navigates the pressure cooker that is our town politics. I hope that Eileen knows that I see her, I trust her, and I am not alone. Thank you to all of our Select Board members who toil away on our behalf. Your work is appreciated.
Thank you. Is there, okay, so opening it up, any other comments on the board? Fletcher, do you have anything to say?
No, thank you.
Okay. So I have two public comments online. I have Elizabeth Warner and Laura Chapman, and then I'll move it to the room. Elizabeth, you're up.
I just wanted to follow up from the meeting 2 weeks ago. I am looking forward to a written apology to the press, and I do feel that you have followed some good protocols in trying to repair some of the things, and I appreciate that. But I do feel a written apology and acknowledgement to the press that there was an error in judgment and that you double downing on your statement was unfortunate. I am looking forward to better communication overall, and I'm looking forward to the town being less divisive. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Laura Chapman.
Hi, thank you. School board and select board were possibly the hardest roles I've ever held in my life. And I just want to express that even though I don't always agree with each and every one of you sitting on that board, we've had our differences most definitely. I greatly appreciate the service that you provide and recognize the pressures. And Eileen, as a chair, you have done a phenomenal job. I just want to thank you and reiterate what's been said in those letters. So thank each and every one of you and really appreciate your service.
Okay, thank you. Are there comments in the room? Deborah?
Hello, everyone. And I would also like to thank you for the hard work that you're doing, and it's incredible the amount of work that you have to do in this job. But I have a concern, because I don't think I have been fairly represented. In the select board meeting of August 21st, I was invited to speak to you as the first item on your agenda. My request was having to do with road safety. My concern about the safety of Alice Hallway has been a driving issue behind my appealing the permit. The statute 6001, which is being adjudicated in environmental court, addresses the density on lot size. The last Vermont Superior Court argument in 2023, the lawyer for the developer described the property as one lot with a road on it, which it is clearly not. The deed describes the former Gateway property to be developed as 2 lots. The road in question, Alice Hallway Drive, is owned by the town of Putney. The lots are not contiguous. I come to you to find a way to address an engineering safety issue that could become dangerous if the proposed development is built with this plan. Because there was only one public meeting and no other opportunity to address this safety issue, I was forced to take my concern to environmental court. The chair of the DRB had the chair of the DRB invited the interested parties or any other of the people who had not been able to attend the Zoom meeting because of technical issues to discuss their concerns, maybe these issues could have been addressed without resorting to environmental court. I came to you with one thing in mind, and I can sum it up in 2 words. Jeremy Burrell. Jeremy Burrell, who died from his injuries after being struck in Bellows Falls this January. He suffered a severe head injury. He died from his injuries sustained on a road that was 25 miles per hour. Peter Shumlin had said his death was a huge loss, that he helped build community wherever he was. I did not, would not, and have never threatened bodily harm on anyone. I've never met Peter Paggi. To think that I would say something like that is absurd. That information came from Eileen. I told the reformer what I said, and it wasn't to harm anyone. It was to protect people in Putney. I called BCTV after the program was aired and asked them if I could listen to the recording from both microphones, because the audio transcript was unclear. Johnny Gifford, the director, offered to fix the transcript with what I know I said. I later learned that Eileen also called BCTV and asked him to make the transcript unclear. I know what I said, and I would like to apologize for talking out of turn. I responded to the suggestion to lower the speed limit from 35 to 25 by saying, that won't break your legs, it's 1/10 of a mile. And it was an off-color aside that illustrated how frustrated I felt at that moment. To describe the incident as tempers flaring, as the reformer said, you'd have to believe her misinformation. I'm here today to clarify what I said so there would not be any confusion. Again, I'd like to draw your attention to Jeremy Burrell, standing on the side of a busy road, 25-mile-an-hour road in the town of Bellows Falls, getting struck and dying days later on his 85th birthday. I did not know that Eileen misheard my comment as a threat until I read it in the newspaper. I made it clear in the newspaper that's not what I said, and still Eileen Shute and the quasi-judicial board did not give me the opportunity to clarify my statement. The moment Eileen lost her temper, she said, "Hon, you can't keep interrupting like that, that's a threat." She did not ask if I had made a threat. The idea that there could have been a misunderstanding came first to me in a statement on Facebook by Laura Chapman, who subsequently took her statements down. I would like Eileen to do the same thing. I did not threaten harm, I did not make any comments regarding Peter Paggi, and I believe she owes him an apology as well. She alone has slandered me and created untruths about me in the press, and as well in a second select board meeting, using her privilege as chair to further her bias toward me, and further influence the community to believe something that is not true. Biases are not tolerated in select board members. And I want to remind you that a public office is a public trust, and public officials owe a special obligation to those whom they are chosen to serve. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I just want to clarify that I did not at any point tell the reporter that contacted me what I thought you had said. I told her to listen to the recording in full. Everything else that she reported was of her own volition. I did not make any of those other words up. Those were her interpretations. I am still talking. And then as far as what I heard, I did hear what I heard. And I'm going to stand by the fact that I heard what I heard. And the reason that I reacted the way that I did was because I heard what I heard. That is not the reason why I removed you from the meeting. I removed you from the meeting because you continued to interrupt us even after we were done with the subject. And I stand by that action as well.
Yes.
I have, one second, I have two other hands online. I have Mr. Fairman and I have Laura Chapman. Howard?
Madam Chair, you didn't say who should go first.
I'm sorry. Mr. Fairman, please go first.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
I will be addressing three more items more than I thought I would, but they'll all be very brief. First, a previous speaker mentioned the possibility of altering a video of a meeting held under the Vermont Open Meeting Law. This, in fact, would be a violation of the Vermont Open Meeting Law. Second, the Alice Holloway Drive appeal in Re Wyndham and Windsor Housing Trust. The basis of the appeal is that the piece of land is not big enough because it is transected by a town road. Now, I'm not going to go into the argument, but that's their theory of the case. Number three, the question of the speed limit there, I have addressed that matter in my letter that I shared with you. I believe it was 2 select board meetings ago. The subject was, what is the speed limit in Putney Village? And a copy went to the Sheriff's Department, and I know that you folks are all working on that as you feel you should, because it is true that in that area, Alice Holloway Drive and the road that intersects it, the speed limit could be any of not posted 35 miles an hour or 30 miles an hour, and certainly 25 miles an hour is a possibility. Now, from that, I switched to what I was prepared to say, which is, Madam Chair, you are a duly elected select person until the end of your 3-year term, and duly elected chair of this select board until the statutory organizational meeting after 2025 annual Putney Town meeting, as the Office of the Vermont Secretary of State has confirmed to me today in writing, both as to statutory and to case law. Maintaining order while duly hearing citizens exercising their First Amendment rights is part of your job, in which I encourage and support your persevering, because you do this job forthrightly and well. Thank you.
Thank you. Laura?
Hi, thank you. I have 3 points. One, I think that it's really important that public comment does not include statements from others that aren't verified. Phone calls that happened with somebody else between Eileen and the executive director of BCTV does not feel like it's appropriate for somebody else to speak to except for Eileen and the executive director of BCTV. So I don't know what happened there, but that kind of insinuation doesn't feel great to me, and I don't think it has a place in public meeting. 2, I did not put a public statement regarding that incident onto Facebook. I commented on somebody else's conversation and I removed it because of the tone of the conversation. I didn't want to engage. I also believe that I heard, "I want to break your legs." Can't be sure that that's exactly what happened, but that's what I heard. And 3, the speed limit, from what I understand, was addressed in that meeting. I watched it. I heard you all talk about lowering that speed limit, that's a part of the plan. 25 is the speed limit for our school zone. It feels like that's an appropriate speed limit for a more densely populated area. Sounds like that's what's happening. So I'm not sure why the conversation is continuing. And I'm going to add one more. I suggest that maybe public comment is limited in its amount of time.
Okay, thank you. And I also forgot to clarify that I did email the executive director of BCTV because I was concerned about the fact that the transcript had been changed because that is our open meeting law of open meeting recording of record now as per state statute. I did not direct him to do anything with it. I just expressed my concern about it. He chose the actions that he did. I guess he deleted one of the transcripts and left one of them completely raw. So I, again, did not have anything to do with their decision other than to express concern about tampering with transcripts. Wait, hold on. So Emily?
Are you ready?
Yes.
On this topic, when you thought that she had made a threat, when I read the transcript or listened to it, it kind of looked like you were threatening with her removing her. You said that was a threat. You didn't ask her to clarify what she uttered. And I think that's important because not doing that has led to all this harm. So I hope that it's a lesson that we've all learned. I know I have felt pretty uncomfortable about the sort of dominating attitude around the meetings. And I think that there's a happy medium. I'm not saying it's an easy job, but I would like to find out, is there a possibility, what is the process? Is there a possibility to ask that you step aside as chair and another fulfill? What would it take? There's a new meeting coming up, I hear. Would it take signatures? What would it take?
The select board would have to call a reorg meeting.
Isn't there a new meeting, a townwide meeting coming up?
We're discussing the possibility of that, but that wouldn't be when that would happen.
We couldn't double.
It's not a process that the voters have a say in. It's an internal process in the select board.
So we have no say to recall?
Well, you can ask these other select board members if they'd like to do that.
Well, I thought that we could impeach or recall.
Nope, there's no state statute that has a recall process.
Thank you for the clarification.
Sure. Billy?
I have a statement to read, please, to the select board. Putney as a town is grappling with a number of complex issues, and I wish to express my deep gratitude to the select board members, and in particular to its current chair, Eileen Shute, for her skilled and strong leadership. Chair Shute fosters diverse public input and engagement at meetings, allowing literally every voice to be heard, frequently multiple times. Her commitment to understanding complex statutes while leading the select board with care and consistency are palpable. She has issued explicit on-the-record apologies when something could have been handled better and consistently works to encourage a positive civil discourse. To me, these are all the hallmarks of an excellent chair. Respectfully.
Thank you. Lisa, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I just wanted to add to my previous statement that thanks, Peg, for reading it. My deep, great gratitude to all of you for your service, and to Karen. I think that I'm concerned that while some people may have a hard time accepting decisions they don't agree with, and I do feel like the atmosphere and
ability to listen to all of those points of view in this room is pretty broad and generous. I'm concerned with the chilling effect that this might have on people who want to potentially serve in the future. And it's really, really important that we don't just end up where, when I was on the select board, there was no choice. There was, we were lucky to get 3 people who wanted the job. And I think this has been an incredibly healthy democratic development, not just moving from 3 to 5, but also the fact that there have been contested races. It's very exciting. But I'm concerned that too much focus on negative experiences of a few can chill the interest of many people being willing to sit in those chairs. It's a hard job, and it's way harder. What you're dealing with is way harder than when I was. It was just projects and money when I was. You guys are doing
No Zoom.
well, those two. And so anyway, thank you all very much for what you do.
Thank you, Lisa. Mr. Fairman?
Madam Chair, because it's come up again, excuse me, allergies acting up here. I'm going to read to you my correspondence with the Office of the Vermont Secretary of State this afternoon. The author is Mark P. Hoole, Esquire, Elections Administrator in the Vermont Secretary of State's office. For those who do not know, the Elections Division also handles municipal law there. My question was, during their organizational meeting after annual town meeting, select persons elect their chairperson as per 24 VSA section 871A. Unless this chairperson resigns the chairmanship, is there any legal provision for her or his removal by the other select persons? Answer, I quote, there is no explicit provision and no specific grant of power found in statute or case law that directly discusses the removal or de-election of a chairperson by a select board once they have been elected. The statutes and regulations primarily outline the processes for electing a chairperson and other related procedural duties. There is no generally applicable municipal statute that provides for the recall or removal of elected local officials, although a few towns do have governance charters that authorize recall under specified conditions. I insert here, Putney is not one of those towns. Continuing the quote, without a charter provision, there is no defined method to remove an elected local official before his or her term is up. The recall mechanism of a select board member is elections and having voters not re-elect any individual when his or her term of office expires. In other words, Madam Chair, having ended the quotation, you are perfectly secure as a select person and as chair to remain in office should you wish to do so. Now, I'd like to address one other matter, and that is people have talked about limiting public comment. Something very important happened in 2019 when the full five justice bench of the Vermont Supreme Court unanimously ruled in Severson versus City of Burlington that the right to public comment granted by the open meeting law, in fact, implements the command, their words, of Chapter 1, Article 6 of the Constitution of the State of Vermont. In other words, the Supreme Court of the State of Vermont have stated unanimously that public comment in a public meeting, as per the Vermont open meeting law, is a constitutional right, and therefore would be subject to no limitations. Now I'm commenting on that, and therefore would be subject to no intrinsic limitations other than standard rules of order. So anyone who talks about limiting public comment as to how many people may speak or how long they may speak beyond what standard rules of order allow is actually trespassing in the area of violating constitutional rights. I appear to be one of the few people in the state who's actually read and understood Severson, but I certainly commend it to everyone. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. With that in mind, is there further public comment? Court?
Yes, hi, I'm Court Trowbridge, and I'm here to make a short statement, which is I'm here tonight to support specifically the chair and all the select board and town staff in the challenging task of representing the interests of the entire town as they are elected and hired to do. I appreciate that I live in a town where all voices are heard and considered when speaking to an agenda item, that is, and then decisions are made that benefit the whole. Thank you for stepping up to this challenge, and please stick with it. And also shout out to Peter and the BCTV.
Who gets to stay through the whole meeting? Thank you. Emily?
I mean, we're in the matters not on the agenda, correct? We're in that.
We're still there, yeah.
We're still there. I have a few that are sort of different, and one thing I want to bring up, since this hasn't been introduced, is this is a proposal that that Deb worked up that would prevent another Jeremy Burrell from happening. Jeremy Burrell was a father figure to my son, a really important person, a really difficult person. And, you know, the idea that another Jeremy Burrell could be struck because you're going to plan to put a big building here and is just really heart-wrenching, because he was so important to our town. So this idea of safety and this idea of putting a very large building in right next to the garden is really problematic with the amount of traffic that goes down here. And I just want to commend Deb for spending so much time, so much creative time looking for an answer here. And I believe that this one is worthy of consideration. She's described a way that here's the existing road, and the building is supposed to go here, everybody crossing here while people are exiting here at, I don't know, 30 miles an hour. But she's described an idea that perhaps bring all the building on one side so nobody's crossing the road, move this way. I think it's a worthy, she's put a lot of time into it, and I just want to submit this for the record for you guys. I know it's a complicated thing and a court thing, but I do think it's worthy of consideration.
Okay, thank you.
Because I don't know if you want to add on to that. I have another different.
If it would be okay, I'd like to say something about that.
Are you done, Emily?
With that particular piece, if I can come again with a different piece.
Yeah, just keep in mind that we do want to get to our agenda items, and this is a meeting, a special meeting. And I do want to hear everybody's comments, but we are still on public items on the agenda, and we do want to get to something fairly complicated soon. Deborah.
I wanted to say that idea to move the road, which solves a lot of problems for me. Storm runoff goes into the gully instead of onto the garden. It seems much safer to me. It makes the lots contiguous. And it was actually inspired by something you said, Eileen, when you said in the meeting on October 21st, August, that we don't know what we're going to do with that road down there. And, you know, I came up with the idea for the circle on Route 5. You showed it to Karen 3 years ago. And that idea popped in my head after you said that, because I've thought so hard. How can we get rid of Alice Hollow Drive? No, we can't really, but we could move it about 135 feet to the north, and they can build where the road is. So it was inspired by something that you had said.
Okay, thank you.
Actually,
one I have Laura back up. Laura?
just a quick clarification, and I can call the Secretary of State and check into it. But my understanding is that select board meetings are public meetings, not meetings of the public. And the Secretary of State actually does give guidance around limiting public comments to under 3 minutes. That guidance was as late as 2021. That's kind of when I dropped off on observing that guidance. And most other select board meetings I watch actually do limit public comment so that they can move on to their much needed business.
Yeah, thank you. Emily?
I don't want to get into the constitutional challenges of where your power arises. I'll stick to efficiency tonight, but I do believe your power arises from the people. So I wanted to talk another safety issue, and I've been in communication with Karen about a particular bridge that's on the end of East Putney Bank Road, and that is that right? East Putney?
No, Brook Road. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a walking path. It's a bridge that's very dilapidated. What I want to call to your attention, it needs repair. If somebody falls through, and I think somebody already has, and somebody is bound to this year, it's going to be a lawsuit on the town. So I walk it, other people bike and walk it. Here are pictures of what it looks like right now.
This is on the, but it's kind of discontinued. Not discontinued,
well, it's a right of way that goes over to Westminster. People bike there.
There's Jersey
but it's not a
barriers.
maintained town road at the moment.
No.
Okay.
No, but it is
it's
a
part of a road, it's
recreational.
just- okay.
Yes.
So it's a rather wide bridge for a car, but I have come across another sample of a bridge that I think you could implement at quite a cost savings. And in fact, before I came here, I looked up the cost of girders that would span, can you see this?
Yes.
That would span both sides. You just place them over from one side to the other, and you need like a 32-foot girders. And I priced out some at about $3,000 or $5,000. So I think you could do the whole thing for very reasonable if you made it into a walking bridge, and you could prevent yourself a great deal of risk because it's just in a dilapidated state that needs addressing. And I need to be able to walk over it safely. Other people need to. You don't want to get sued. So I think that's helpful information for you, and I'd like to see you take it up in the budget. I don't know how to follow through, but it needs to be taken up.
We can have a discussion with Karen at some point offline. It's not on our radar right now, but
It's on mine.
it's on Karen, so we can talk to her about it further.
Okay. Let's see, the next issue is constitutional, which is around the election coming up. And the election coming up is not going to be a clean and pure election. It's not going to be an election that's held by...
Point of order, Madam Chair. The speaker speaking is not relevant to this meeting. The election is a state and federal election, not a local election.
Madam Chair, would you ask people not to interrupt me,
Mr.
please?
Fairman, it's a public comment on items not on the agenda, and I'm going to allow it. Thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah. So as Mr. Fairman will understand, elections ought to be free and without corruption is Article 8, and Article 6 of our Constitution states that all power arises from the people, and our people are supposed to be accountable to them. My concern about this election is so broad that it's hard to state it in the 3 minutes. But suffice it to say that there's no way to corroborate who is mailing in the ballots. There's no way to corroborate whether the newcomers who have driver's licenses are voting unconstitutionally in our elections. There's been some inaccurate statements in the Board of Civil Authority that have been made And I may put my concerns in a notice to the board. I also want to serve you with a notice of constitutional limits on governmental authority and the illegitimacy of governmental powers. I can give you this copy. And I have one other copy. Who would like another copy?
Why don't you give it to Karen? She can scan it in.
And I don't have to read it in, but you need to read it because it has a notice of liability in it. Essentially what it is that the Constitution does not go away in an emergency. The governor does not have the rights that he took during COVID. The legislature, even if it did make laws regarding an emergency, cannot abridge the Constitution, our bodily autonomy, and so forth. So we're preempting any further ideas that the kind of constitutional violations that happened during COVID could ever happen again, because people are coming around and they're saying, this is the Constitution, and you all swore an oath to it. Did you not? Did you each swear an oath to the Constitution? Did you?
What's our oath say?
Your oath says.
Constitution, U.S. and Vermont.
Okay.
It says, your oath, I have it right here actually. And also it says in our Constitution that only citizens can vote in your oath of allegiance, that every officer, whether judicial, executive, military, or in authority under the state, before entering the execution of office, shall take and subscribe the following oath or affirmation of allegiance to this state. And I have the rest of it. And we as voters also take an oath that we are citizens. That I do solemnly swear or affirm that you will be true and faithful to the state of Vermont, and you will not directly or indirectly do any act or thing injurious to the Constitution or government thereof. Now here's a very sticky point. It's a fact, though. The Democratic candidate, and please don't make assumptions about who I'm voting for by my statements. The Democratic candidate is present as a candidate without any democratic process. She was appointed by dictate without any legal democratic process. Additionally, it is a fact that the Democratic candidate was not a citizen when she was born, nor were her parents. This is a constitutional requirement. It's in our Constitution. This makes a problem. And it doesn't, you can walk away if you want, but it's a fact. And if we're gonna be a country of law and order, we need to be following the Constitution. So, we all know that Bernie Sanders' primary was rigged by unlawful things. So there's a messy election. We also know that 100 congressional members in 2020 came forward with evidence of foreign corruption, evidence that was never investigated because there was a protest that has been incorrectly called an insurrection over and over and over again, even though nobody has been charged with insurrection. It has been said over and over that 5 policemen died. That is misinformation. These types of interference with our elections are so broad, it seems impossible to begin to embrace them. But I have asked that we point out that there is no way, it is merely an assumption that the tabulated results are accurate. That is merely an assumption. If we don't also hand count them, we don't know. We also know that it is a fact they are vulnerable. And I'll wrap it up, and I stood up amongst a very sort of unkind atmosphere to say this because I think we do need to honor the Constitution, and again, people shouldn't assume that I'm voting for the other candidate simply because I'm standing up for this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Fairman, is it brief? Because I would like to get on to town business.
It is brief, Madam Chair. I should like to ask two questions to clarify what the previous speaker has said. First, is she a candidate for election at present?
What does that have to do with what I had to say?
If we could move on.
Only this, if she is campaigning for an election, for election with this speech, that would be something that the public should know. And apparently we're not going to get an answer. The second question is the speaker has offered some quite specific suggestions about how to construct a bridge. So therefore, my question is the speaker an engineer?
Yeah, I guess that's not really relevant either. It's just another idea.
I want to know how to evaluate the suggestion, and in order to do that, I need to know, is the speaker an engineer?
I'll be happy to answer both questions.
I don't want a back and forth between people in the public, and this is a back and forth right now. I prefer to.
It's a question requesting a clarification. I've simply asked you to ascertain from the speaker whether the speaker is an engineer.
I don't feel like this is relevant. This was just handed up to us right now. We're not getting into it right now. I'd really like to move on, if it would be okay with everyone else. What's your name? I'm sorry.
Hi, I'm Laura Fry.
Hi.
And thank you for having me. And I simply want to, I know I may be the last comment, I simply want to thank Nate and Peg, Eileen, and Eric for your service. The work that you do is often not appreciated because many of us, including myself, remain uninformed, and I just came to become a better informed citizen and to see what you are managing for all of us. And so for my family, I stand here to thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just really quick, less than a minute. So I'm Jonathan Johnson, I'm the town clerk. On the town clerk, wearing my town clerk hat, I would say everybody should have received a ballot in the mail. You may vote that absentee, you may drop it in the drop box, you may come in and vote in person at town hall, you may bring your ballot to the fire station on election day, November 5th, 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. and vote, please vote. If you didn't get a ballot, or if you got a ballot for someone that's not you, please let me know. I want to fix those problems. Cemetery Commission. We tried to organize a work day in Dipping Hole Cemetery. We asked for 4 or 5 people to come with weed whackers. We had snacks from the orchard. Trowbridge, thank you for volunteering. Our one and only volunteer. So if you're interested in doing some volunteer work in the cemetery, please reach out to me.
All right, thank you.
Can I quickly clarify for Mr. Fairman?
No, I would. Again, it's not a back and forth. We're not doing that right now. So I'd like to move on unless there's other public comment.
I just wanted
Emily?
to ask, I have just been to Mexico and I've been there a bunch of times. I adore the Mexican community. They are the warmest, most beautiful people. How can I participate in your work, Nate?
Oh, you're always welcome to join an Equity Inclusion Advisory Committee meeting, which should be the 4th Thursday of every month.
Time?
They start at 6.
Here?
Generally, yes, or via Zoom.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
Okay. Any other comments in the room? Any comments online? Fletcher, do you have anything? You're good? Okay. All right, then moving on to the Fire and Rescue Department report, which is Russ or Billy or somebody? Oh, okay.
Well, I can speak.
Okay, somebody speak to it. We have it in our packet, but
I can speak to the EMS side.
Okay.
I can't speak to the fire side. Yes, the report was in the packet, and I'd say the highlights are that we had 40 calls for service between September 3rd and September 29th. That seems like an important piece of data for folks to understand. Of the 40 calls for service, about 75% of them were medical calls, so that would be 29. There were 9 fire calls. So, you know, roughly 3/4 of the calls that we're responding to are medical in nature. That's going to be an important statistic as we go forward with planning. There were some high acuity calls in there, including a cardiac arrest in town that the crew responded to and managed very effectively. Had an excellent outcome for the patient. We have been working on integrating training on the medical side with Rescue Inc., which has been also effective. We're sort of still getting into the rhythm of that. Those are monthly trainings. We have a number of new members on the EMS side. Some are brand new to emergency medicine. Some are experienced providers who have joined up to help us who live in town or close to town. And that's actually a great development as well. We're working on integrating the new folks, both the new providers and the folks who are brand new to EMS, into our overall response rubric. I would say it's a work in progress. We are working on recruitment. In addition to that, there are other people in town who've expressed interest in becoming involved in EMS, and I'm certainly here to say that anybody that might be interested in getting involved, the door is wide open. People can reach out to me or anybody else on the EMS side of the department, or Brian Harlow if they see him. We will eagerly engage anybody who's interested in getting involved. The EMS side is a little bit different from the fire side in that it does involve certifications, which means you have to, at a minimum, take a first responder class. But there again, we can help facilitate that. I would anticipate that we will probably try to hold a class here sometime in the next couple of months at the fire station for community folks who might be ready to step up and take that first step. So we're working hard on that. We've had 100% call coverage since things have reopened. We've had good numbers of folks showing up to the calls, which is great, and I think that's been the exact same thing on the fire side. And I think that's really the report. If there are questions, of course, I'm happy to try to answer them.
Okay, thank you.
Emma Martin couldn't be here tonight, so that's why I'm giving the report.
That's awesome. I do have Fletcher. Fletcher?
I'd just like to acknowledge that one of those calls was to my house. It was a life and death situation, and I'd like to extend my sincere gratitude to the members of the EMS service and the fire department who responded.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Fairman?
Madam Chair, I'd like to ask the gentleman from the fire department this question, because of where I live at Putney Landing, I and my neighbors are very much aware of when the helicopter ambulance is landing in Putney. And I'm curious, in what sort of situations do they have the helicopter ambulance come here instead of transporting the patient in a terrestrial ambulance?
Do you have a good answer for that?
I could take a stab at that. Certain very high acuity calls require a more expeditious transport to a trauma center such as Dartmouth. And those are the cases, for example, in which we would summon a helicopter right out of the gate rather than putting a patient in an ambulance on I-91 down to Brattleboro, where they eventually might end up needing to get transferred to that helicopter anyway. So it's just a call that happens on scene based on the acuity of the injury or the situation.
Did that answer your question?
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, Billy, could you just explain what good intent call, no emergency means, and what staging for law enforcement is?
Staging for law enforcement means that there's a call that involves, for example, like a domestic abuse or a call for a domestic situation. There's a call that is, initially a law enforcement response, and we'll get toned out for that, and we'll stand by pending law enforcement getting in and either settling the situation, in which case they'll just release us, or if there's an injury, then they'll ask us to come in and treat the injury. So that's what that is. Good intent call, no injury, I think means somebody sees somebody wandering down the street and calls it in because they're concerned about that person's well-being. And it turns out that perhaps there's no patient there, or that the person was just, walking slowly, or, sleeping, on the sidewalk. I don't know, Russ or Eric can chime in.
That would be a good example.
It's a good example.
Yeah. Somebody's slumped over the wheel, when they're just taking a nap. Somebody calls concerned about them.
Okay.
That starts the process for EMS and law enforcement.
I would add one more or point out one other stat, which I think is significant, which is that in this roughly, it's less than a month, we did have 7 calls up to Landmark College. And I think that that's just a statistic that we need to track and keep an eye on as we go forward.
Okay. Thanks. Karen?
So I just wanted to make a comment that interim Fire Chief Harlow is actually at a training down at the fire station. That's why he's not here.
Okay.
They did have a structure fire on Saturday where there were several fire responders there from our department. EMS was there as well, I heard. And a lot of mutual aid departments showed up as well. So, Eric, do you want to add to that?
It went very well.
Good response.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every truck left the station besides the ladder truck, which we didn't need. Things went very well.
Okay, good. Good to know. Emily?
On the subject of emergency services, I have begun to, I walk without my cell phone, and I have fallen numbers of times since last time I broke a tooth on that same path, and there's a concern that I just wanted to make a comment about that option of building it more reasonably, that we do it wide enough so that not as wide as, at least wide enough for a snowmobile or an ATV for somebody who could fall through. There's another bridge further down that is even more dilapidated, and as I said, that's getting to be a much more populated bicycle route and hiking route. So I just want to reiterate that I think that's really important to take up this fall, because it won't last through the winter. Somebody's going to fall through.
Okay, thank you. So you spoke to the EMS side, so anybody can speak to the fire side? Eric?
What would you like to know?
I don't know.
Things are going great.
Okay.
We've obviously worked with the EMS side a bunch. For the fire side is responsible for setting up the landing zones for helicopter and just assisting them manpower wise. A lot of the guys are cross trained, fire and EMS, and so we're working together. You can see, there's a lot of numbers in here. They're up to 9 certified guys, 15 firefighters. We've definitely been tested. We've had a lot of challenging calls, but everything's gone well in my eyes. I don't know. Russ?
I would agree, and with the doors open, we seem to be getting more and more people are walking in the doors and wanting to volunteer and learn. I don't think it's a closed society like it used to be.
Okay, that's good. Good.
Thank you all. We went through hell with all this, and it's really nice to be feeling like we're coming out the other side of it. It's so strong. So thank you. Karen, all of you.
We all work together to.
Yeah. It's
We
so
have some
clear.
more
It's-
work to do, but.
There's a lot to do, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's coming.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not, it's gonna take a couple of years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Please get that, don't think it's gonna happen in 6 months, because it's not. It is gonna take at least a couple of years to get back to where we need to be. I see it happening. I see it happening now, and people are working together, which is a great thing. Because once you walk in that door, you've got to be part of the team. If you're not part of the team, you need to leave.
Okay, thank you.
Can I say something?
Emily?
I would like to say that I respect your position in the law and the law around your position. And I will not challenge it, and I'll look to work better with you.
Okay.
I just want to add one comment. I just want to thank the department for doing crossing guard on Sunday for Discover Putney.
Yeah.
So I understand folks volunteered, and it was a good turnout. So I just want to say thank you.
Yeah, it was like a tremendous turnout. Yeah.
To the Putney Fire and Rescue for volunteering.
And that was actually a group of Landmark College students, and they did well.
Nice.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Train them up. Okay. Other comments on the fire department report? All right, moving on to the town manager report.
Thank you, Billy, for that report.
Yeah, thank you.
Mine's a little bit longer. So Putney Mountain Road is complete with the stormwater mitigation. So we are gonna be submitting a reimbursement probably within the next 2 weeks. Signal Pine Road also had work done for stormwater mitigation. That is complete. So it's 2 different grants that the highway department and the contractor actually finished by September 30th. There's a lot of work to do, but both are completed. So grading will continue for a short period of time. There are a few roads that probably need one more pass with the grader. The crew is looking and preparing for, blowing leaves off the road and pretty much preparing for winter. They're going through the equipment at the highway department. There are some things that we're gonna need, like tires for some of the trucks. But they're taking inventory, and Lenny Howard is coming to me and requesting certain things that are, fairly high dollar. So that's happening. I just wanna say thank you to the highway department too. And they did receive a card that I want to read. Dear Town Garage friends, a huge thanks to all of the crew for the amazing upgrade on Putney Mountain Road. You do such a great job keeping us mobile up here, and this new drainage work will be a big help. Best to you all, Art, Henny, and Colin at 198 Putney Mountain Road. So it's the little things like this that are really big things. So a big shout out to the highway department because they're doing an awesome job. And that's Lenny Howard Jr., it's Pat Wood, it's Willie Aiken, it's Skip Thurber, and
Jesse
Amadon. So thank you very much. Moving on. First installment of property taxes were due on Friday, September 27th. Overall collection was good compared to the last 2 years. So the first installment, what is due is $184,781.38. And that is out of 2.5 million that needed to be collected. So I think this was an awesome, I'm humbled by what people are doing, and I know it's difficult. 98 property owners have prepaid in full. So that's first, second, and third installment. So 98 property owners.
Is that unusually high number?
I haven't done the comparison over the years, but I will say that quite a few people pay in full the first installment when it's due. But we can take a look at that, Peg.
I was just curious whether, and I was.
Whether it went down or whether, yeah.
Yeah, whether it went down or if it went up, if people who were able to pay could see the challenge that we are facing right now and pitched in, their entire year's tax payment. I just was curious whether it was typical or not.
Yeah. So with the reappraisal, we've been looking at different numbers and trying to, compare, at least go back 2 years and take a look at things, but we're still analyzing data.
Mm-hmm.
But
When
it's
COVID must have
interesting.
thrown it all up in the air too, like COVID
Right.
whacked it all out, I'm sure.
Yeah. But overall, I think Putney's doing good. I mean, even with the delinquent taxes, like I reported 2 weeks ago at $132,000, it's a significant number, but it's small.
Mm-hmm.
So, segue into 23 certified letters went out to property owners who were delinquent or are delinquent 1 year in arrears or more. 11 folks signed for their registered letters. 2 people have paid in full. And talking to people and doing tax payment arrangements, what I've noticed and what we've learned to look at is have they filed their homestead declaration form? And most of the people haven't. And they tend to be senior adults without an income, thinking that they don't have to, file an income tax.
Right.
But, we are referring people to SEVCA. They're gonna work with these people. So hopefully we can at least get this year's homestead exemption and possibly last year's.
Okay.
Because,
Yeah.
They'll let you go back a year?
They will if you work with
Yes.
them. The state does try to work with people. They're a very good department.
Right. So, it may wipe out 3/4 of their tax bill, which is gonna be helpful if they're having a financial hardship right now.
May I ask the wording of the exemption or clarification on what homestead exemption states?
There's a form right up there if you want to take one. John can probably answer that better than I can. Yeah. So homestead exemption or declaration is if you live in Vermont the entire year.
I think it's 6 months or more.
6 months or more.
Yeah.
So.
And
But
by December, it's by
the
December
SEVCA
30th.
tax assistance is extraordinary. They have a really good crew there.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you are aware of this, but I'm on their board.
I did not know that.
And Emily Strasser has taken over and it's just does an amazingly good job.
Okay, I'll talk to you later. Just learn about it.
Okay, so, because I can't answer that question because it's not my office.
The listers know a lot about it.
Right.
Yep, that's the other place you would.
So I met with Betsy McIsaac from Discover Putney regarding welcome to Putney signage for the entrance, on the south entrance and the north entrance. She will bring concept designs to the select board, hopefully by October 16th. Also Bryce Hodgson, I met with him talking about benches in and around Putney. He talked about like chess tables. He showed me some concept designs for like ping pong tables for outdoor. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
The pool, I'm thinking about the pool folks, okay? So right now I'm
Walking down on the sidewalk, I'm gonna play.
I mean, why not? Or the fire station front lawn.
Right.
Yeah.
Perfect, right?
That'd be good.
So, we're trying to get people to come, walking and, having something to do. So I think Bryce is onto something. And Discover Putney does have a grant to do both the signage and, these sitting areas. So I'm gonna continue to work with both of them, and they both will bring something to the board. Okay. I met with Ashley lunch today with Quantified Ventures, Community Finance for 2 hours. Sue Coakley was with us too. So we're needing to do our 20-year evaluation analysis on the wastewater treatment plant. And she can help us with a second water source as well. There's all kinds of phased work that goes into this. And ordinances, fees, as-built, everything.
Okay.
So we may be able to work with her and just, we have to put a request for qualifications out.
Yeah.
And then we have to do, bids for engineering.
Yeah.
And so it is gonna be like, the first phase is 3 to 4 months, but the second phase could be 12 to 14 months.
Wow.
Then we can get into construction, but without the housing needs assessment study, which will be complete in January, because that's gonna be part of this.
That'll inform that piece,
Looking at long-term, we talked about borrowing money versus, reserves and all kinds of funding options. 2 hours of, it was like, Sue was even walking away going, what was all that? It was like,
wow.
I know, and it takes a lot to get her rattled. But she has a lot on her plate right now, so it's totally understandable. I met with Peter Rood, he's with North Hill Solutions. He's a consultant working with municipalities. He also works with Isaac Wagner. Peter's going to be, he has already reviewed the architectural services proposals for the renovation of Town Hall. And he's scored them all. We're meeting, Lisa Papazian, myself, and Sue Coakley and Peter are all meeting on Friday to go over those, go over the scoring and the proposals. We plan to schedule at least 2, maybe 3 interviews for next week. And then our goal is to have a recommendation for the select board for a consultant to work on the renovation project.
All right.
We submitted the Municipal Energy Resilience Program grant on Friday, September 27th. Sue was able to get that in on time, and that grant is for $500,000, which would be a good piece of
chunk of money.
Yeah, it'll be good. It is competitive, but we'll keep you posted on that. Tonight, there's a meeting with Camoin Associates and the Planning Commission at the library. So if we get out of here before 8, we might be able to attend the last part of it.
Is that a challenge?
There's an 81-page housing needs assessment and market study that is on our website. I would suggest that the select board at least glaze through it. Just so you have an idea, because there will be a meeting of all of us at some point, and you're probably going to want to ask questions, but.
Okay.
Is that still open? I thought it was closed. I thought
the survey closed on Monday. So they'll gather all that data too, but like I said, there's an 80-page housing needs assessment and market study.
Oh, the study.
It's a study.
Yes.
Okay.
It's pretty interesting too. I attended the Rescue Forum on Sunday, September 22nd at 4 p.m. Billy Strauss was there as well, and Jeanette White, so I appreciated other people from Putney coming over. It was, I don't know what to say about Drew Hazleton. I mean, he does a wonderful job over there. I'm just always so impressed. And he always has new information. The meeting was recorded by BCTV, so you can watch it at
I did see it on
any time.
there. I haven't watched it yet.
So we were there too to talk about contracts because they're coming up to renew. There will be a 1% increase per year for the next 3 years.
Okay.
And I'm actually grateful for that and thankful, and I'm very surprised, and I just want to say thank you.
That it's that low?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes. Because that's what happened in the last 3-year contract.
Yeah. Good, so they're able to keep that down.
They are able to keep it down, and I do suggest if people are interested in rescue to watch the video because it's very informative.
Okay.
What
Mr.
was
Furman?
the date on that, just so when I go looking for it?
September 22nd?
Okay.
Mr. Fairman has his hand up. Mr. Fairman?
Madam Chair, I'll wait until our town manager has completed her report.
Okay.
Thank you. Requests for bids were sent out for propane and oil. Bids are due October 11th. I will recommend a selection at October 16th meeting as we're getting into the budget season.
Yeah, I guess we are.
Yes. Requests for bids were sent out for 2-year mowing contracts. Bids are due November 6th. Recommendation selection, I'm going to set it for November 13th. Town Fair in Killington is tomorrow, so all of Town Hall is closed for tomorrow because all of our staff will be attending Town Fair. And that's Vermont Leagues of Cities and Towns that puts that on. And Monday, October 9th, I will not be in the office.
Okay, fine.
Going to Boston.
All right. For fun, right?
I'm not going to the airport, so
Okay.
it's not good. It is fun, yes,
Okay.
yes. So that's all I have.
All right, Mr. Fairman?
Madam Chair, I know you're wishing to accelerate the schedule here. I have 3 questions that the town manager already knows about and has the answers. But before that, she mentioned something that raises a question in my mind. The homestead property tax income sensitivity thing. Does the town have a list of people in the town of Putney who have applied for and received it?
They do, but it's private information.
Well, I'm not saying that it's, I'm not asking that it be public information. What I'm wondering about is, our town manager mentioned that they discovered that there were some people who had not paid their bills who probably could have filed that and didn't. And if we know who has filed it and who hasn't, we may be able to nudge them in that direction instead of their. You get my drift.
Yeah, and there's actually a process that the listers take on that's they call it, said unfriendly term, non-filers, that they work with the state to identify people who haven't filed and should have. So that's a process that the listers have gone through. I don't know that they've done it this year because they've been pretty busy, but normally they do that at a certain point during the year.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That's good to know because you folks are better informed than many taxpayers would be. This does not exactly get a lot of publicity. Now, to the questions that the town manager is anticipating, how much money in total did 2024 Putney Town Meeting voters authorize by raising taxes by taxes for general fund and highway fund expenditures during fiscal 2024-2025?
$2,658,240.64.
Okay, thank you. And then how much money in total is being raised by fiscal 2024-2025 tax bills for general fund and highway fund expenditures during fiscal 2024-2025?
$2,652,000. $321.63. And the difference
Yes,
is $5,919.01, and that's a negative number.
Yes. Thank you. I asked you these questions as background information for the current discussion about taxation in Putney, and they may come in handy later. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments on the town manager's report in the room? Online, Fletcher, do you have anything?
no, thank you.
Okay, anybody on the select board have any more comments on the town manager's report? All right, moving on to the Putney Fire Rescue Committee, under boards, committees, and commissions. That's got your name on it, Peg?
I don't have anything in particular to report.
Okay. All right, well then let's move on to the special town meeting discussion. So last meeting, I promised to come back to us with a list of articles, potential special town meeting articles that we could warn a special town meeting for, specifically about property taxes. And first of all, I want to get a sense whether we still think we would like to pursue that.
That's a good question.
Okay. Jada, do you want to give us the rundown of how it works if we were to warn it?
Well, there's two different, the first thing is, it might be premature, because we still have 22 BC Board of Civil Authority tax appeals underway.
Okay.
It was 24, but 2 were voluntarily dismissed yesterday by the property owner, so those 2 went away. There's still hearings to go. We'll have a better sense, I think, on Monday when we meet to review the inspection committee reports and deliberate on that first group of 8 cases or however many it was, as to whether the BCA will reduce assessments or keep them the same. So we'll have some sort of projection as to what that might do with the revenue we collect. So that's one. The second thing is I have 3 abatement requests that have come in that I've been reluctant to schedule just because the BCA is really, really busy right now, and then we're going to be really, really busy with the election. And so of the people who have been filing abatement requests, there's no urgency for us to hear those. And so I said probably mid-November we would hear abatements. That's still in advance of the December 6th tax deadline, but those delay, and I'm kind of expecting some more abatement requests due to the fact that tax sale notices went out last week.
They're not tax sale notices.
But they're certified letters saying
they're delinquent taxes.
Delinquent tax letters, but part of that, I think by statute, is you have to say, hey, have you thought about abatement?
Right.
So I'm kind of waiting to see whether we get more cases out of that.
That's part of the new legislation, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yes.
So we have 3 already. We'll probably have more, and that won't be decided until mid-November. So the ways that the select board can always on its own motion request a special town meeting on a variety of things. Looking back, the last one I think that I found was when and it was actually, it was a town meeting, a special town meeting to buy the Forest for Learning from the school.
That's right.
Was the last one that we had, and that was an in-person meeting. It was at the school in the gym. That's probably the easiest type of special meeting to have, is an in-person vote from the floor. Typically you would give 30 to 40 days warning of that. So 30 days from now is the 1st of November, there's a presidential election going on. That's kind of an inconvenient time to have a special meeting. You know, the rest of the month I think would be fine.
Okay.
So that's one way. The other way is if there was a citizen petition, those with, you would need 100 signatures, 101 signatures, because it's 5% of our voter checklist is 100.55. I don't know how you get a 5 person, so I'm gonna ask for 101.
Okay.
And those meetings have to be scheduled within 60 days of the presentation of a ballot petition. I would prefer, I think, a in-person meeting, but you certainly could do a by Australian ballot too, if that's what you decide to do. If you do a by Australian ballot, there's more costs because we have to print ballots and, you know, and probably have a public information meeting.
Yeah.
I believe that's statutory, you would have to do that. So November is the earliest we could do it.
Yeah.
Then, you know, certainly my staff would be happy to do it. I don't see a problem with scheduling with John up at the school and letting us in. We haven't discussed that yet, but he's really easy to work with. So the logistics of it are not too complicated. We've done town meeting for years and years, and that's essentially what we would be looking at, just on a different day.
Okay. Okay. So I guess the question is whether we want to go ahead with, if we do, well, maybe we should discuss that in depth. Karen?
I just want to follow up on Jonathan's comment because he and I spoke earlier. I agree with Jonathan, it's premature. I'm really nervous about some of these articles because not knowing errors in emissions and abatement, we risk having a deficit. As you know, Eileen, the grand list changes all the time.
Yep.
So when I looked at it in August or September when it was actually lodged, it's already dropped, right?
Yeah.
Which now we're going to see a deficit. We're going to start seeing a deficit as that grand list start.
Because the tax rate doesn't change. We've set the tax rate.
We have set the tax rate.
Yeah.
So I'm very nervous and I want to be very cautious moving forward how we handle this. I can say like a 1% on what's due right now equates to $1,800, okay? So, you know, like waiving an interest, you know, I mean, we have to take all that into consideration. So I just want us to move forward cautiously. I understand the situation. It was a big shock. And I'm looking at something else, you know, on the educational side. I need to suss that out a little more.
Okay.
And there's some other things too that I actually need to bring to either Michael Maricki or Emily to question some numbers.
Okay.
And I'm not prepared to talk about that tonight till I have validated what I'm seeing.
Okay. My assumption is that even if we did move forward, we wouldn't be warning it tonight anyway. It's not in the right format, for one thing. JJ?
One of the things that Karen and I were talking about this afternoon that I started to research and I don't have an answer to is, you'll recall that when we abate taxes, the town still has to pay the state education tax attributable to that property. I don't know what the rule is when the appraisal or assessment is reduced by the BCA, what happens to the education tax that was billed for that property. Does the town pick that up? Does it
That's a
come off
very
the tax
good
bill?
question.
And I don't have a good answer.
I know there's an appeals process to the
Right.
state, but that's if it drops by like a lot, the
And-
whole grand list.
Right, and I can think of at least one case that I anticipate that we're gonna go to state hearing officer on. And, you know, so that one's not gonna be resolved until well into next year.
Sure.
And again, there's just so many questions about what the grand list is gonna look like when the tax appeal process is over and when the abatement process is over.
Okay.
Which is why, in my view, it's premature to make a huge decision. On the other hand, I totally understand that, you know, there are a lot of taxpayers whose tax bills went up significantly, and switching it from 3 to 4 payments might make some sense. I'm not weighing in on that, but it's a very difficult issue, and I don't know what the answer is. Logistically, you know, having a meeting is pretty easy. We just got a $5,000 election grant, so, you know, that we could use some of that money to cover the cost of, you know, microphones for the meeting or whatever we needed. So that is an option too.
Okay.
Yeah, what options do we have if we don't have a meeting, if we don't hold a town meeting now, if we don't do anything to address the hardships? Now, what option do we have retroactively, if any, and, you know, with, you know, 6 months from now to, you know, retroactively address hardships that people are having?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Well,
sorry.
yeah, I guess it, you know, it has to, you know, like how much we're charging people for, you know, the issue of fees, you know, fees for interest on late taxes. Can we visit that down the road and retroactively? Is that an option to?
I don't.
I've been lobbying our delegation to Montpelier because I think this is a state-created problem.
Yeah.
You know, when you look at a tax bill where there was a need-based state payment of X dollars last year, and it went up a little, but not as much as the assessment went up.
Right.
You know, because the way the state tax payment is calculated is on last year's appraisal, not the reassessment.
Right.
And so if there was a way to get the state to say, hey, we realize that a lot of reappraisal towns have assessments that went way up. We need to retroactively adjust those state payments to the town.
Yep.
You know, that would solve a lot of problems.
Yep.
On the taxpayer side.
And that would be a legislative action,
Right.
and they don't
And
they don't even convene until December. So
or January.
January.
Right.
So yeah, there's a lot of retroactive things that the state could do, but these are the things that we can do. These are the things that would require. These right here are the things that require town meeting.
Right.
And as far as I'm aware, the only thing that the select board could do is possibly move the payments that we do have further out.
Right.
Which is another possibility, but again, that's...
Could we as a select board lobby to the state?
Sure.
Yes.
We can absolutely do that.
We're gonna do it tomorrow at Town Fair.
Yeah, I mean, there's that, but we could also do like,
But as
we
a
could actually do like a
select
formal request to the state legislature to, you know, do this thing. We could do that. We could put that on the next agenda and have like a letter that we all agree to send to
that seems
the
like just
legislature.
at a minimum.
Yeah, we could do that.
Yeah, I'm thinking too that.
I see you, Emily.
If we could talk to the state, maybe they can do something with the homestead exemption in the next tax cycle to see a bigger exemption, but it has to be from the state. change the tax dates.
Mm-hmm.
One, we're gonna have to figure out how to do that cost effectively.
Because you already printed out the tax bills.
Tax bills are already out.
Which would be the case of
Yeah.
most of these, yeah.
You know, in your interest, you know, maybe the penalty, we might be able to reduce it, but we have to remember that that revenue is in our operating budget. So anything we reduce,
We're anticipating people not paying their taxes in our budget.
so.
Okay.
Like, that's a good question.
I mean, I can understand why we do that, but.
Right.
Is that true? Our budget is built on an anticipation that some people are not paying their taxes and are gonna have to pay
No.
extra?
I mean, what?
No, so
what's?
you're saying it was extra revenue if we remove the penalty. Is that an unseen revenue that we were expecting, or?
No, because it's a guessing game, okay?
So that's not in our revenue stream when we're.
It is, it's in the budget.
It is in the budget.
Yes, yep. So there's like 40,000 between interest and penalty.
Okay.
So, you know, if we don't collect that, then you can, you know, you may see a deficit unless we don't expense everything on the other side.
Sure.
So it's a balanced budget.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So it's a risk. You know, I'm not saying, you know, it can't be done, because it can. You know, even if you reduced it instead of 8% penalty and said, well, let's do 4, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there is a chance. I think 4 payments, 4 installments a year is better, because it will help people that are financially strapped right now. We talked about that at town meeting in
Yeah,
March.
we've talked about it the last 2 years. We've talked about
Yeah.
changing that schedule, and
So-
so far everybody's
Yeah.
been good with the 3.
Yeah, but again, they're not gonna feel the relief, I honestly don't think, until the next tax cycle.
Okay. Emily.
I was wondering, you know, I hear a lot of discontent about the raising taxes here and the cost of living. I hear that it's the second highest place taxed in the country. I was wondering, are we seeing, and I'm seeing more for sale signs, are we seeing people leaving Putney because of the taxing? I hear people talking about it, but I've seen a couple more for sale signs. Do you keep track of whether people are leaving Putney?
I don't, but Jonathan, town clerk, sees like property transfers weekly. We're actually tracking them too. And that is another, you know, area of revenue that actually goes to the state of Vermont.
Yes.
And the towns, municipalities don't see any cut in that.
Theoretically, we do if we had state land, but it's used for the pilot program. But yes, that's another piece of revenue that the state would need to, the legislature.
That's
legislation
right.
Would have to.
That's right.
Give us a cut of the PTTR taxes that occur in our town.
Yeah.
And allocate it back to the town. That would be another legislative fix.
The pilot
payments.
Payment. Yeah, I saw that referenced somewhere. I don't know what that is. Could you explain that?
So
Payment in lieu of taxes.
Yeah.
Payment in lieu of taxes.
So in legally, the state is if we had state buildings or state parks in Putney, which I believe we have one little way station on.
We have the boat landing.
Oh, we have the boat landing.
We have a rest area. We have the
Just the
way
rest
station.
Do we get pilot payments for those?
I believe so, but it's.
Because I
Park and ride?
I think it was just for.
And the park and ride.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's not a.
Because it's not all state land. It was limited to like parks. Anyway, the state divvies up the money from the property transfer taxes and gives that money out in payment in lieu of taxes for properties that they own in the town.
Right.
To try to hold the town harmless. but that's only helpful if you
Yeah.
have
A
something
bunch
like
of
that
state.
in your town. Go
And
ahead.
it's significant money. I just ran the numbers for Karen last week. For sales of property in Putney since April 1
Mhm.
through last Thursday, the property transfer tax on properties in Putney was $130,000.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a ton of money. Even 10% of that coming to the town would be a big help.
Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah, go ahead.
The-
And then I go into that.
You know, I know that the legislature isn't meeting until, January, but now is when they're formulating their bills. So getting on
Yeah.
that with them and formulating that would be good. And lastly, I just would say that a lot of people that I hear are comparing us with New Hampshire, which has a $3.8 or $4 billion budget and twice as many people, and it exceeds the standards and the rating in many different areas, and we have an 8 something, I want to say $6 billion budget, and roughly half as many people. So I don't know what process it is that we could develop a way to assess whether our governmental workings are efficient, effective, and that the people could be involved with refining them better so that we have better outcomes for the amount that we're taxed.
You mean from the state level? That's a great idea. Howard, Mr. Farman?
Thank you, Madam Chair. You and our town manager have alluded to potential warning articles for a special town meeting. I'm wondering, for the benefit of the public in a public meeting, whether you could at least summarize what those articles say.
Yeah, sure. I picked these out of a model town meeting warning from the LCT specific to property tax installments and penalties and such like. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them that I pulled out. The first one is, shall the town vote that overdue taxes will bear interest at a rate of whatever we say % per month on fraction thereof of the first 3 months and thereafter from the due date of such tax. The second one is, shall the town direct that the officer collecting current taxes, that's Karen, deduct a number no larger than 4% from the taxes of a person who makes their tax payment on or before the due date. So that would be if you prepay your taxes, you would get a break. Shall the town limit the amount of penalty charged by the collector of delinquent taxes for payments made after the due date for payment and insert a number no larger than 8% of the tax collected. And I believe
8%.
we do 8% right now.
Yes.
Shall the town allow a grace period of insert a number of days after the established time for a payment during which the collector of delinquent taxes shall not charge a penalty? Shall the town set the penalty charged by the collector of delinquent taxes for payments made after the due date for a number % for the first number of days, and then an additional insert another % for the tax for insert another additional days and thereafter? And the percentage there may not, of those two numbers, may not exceed 8. And then the last one would be, shall the voters authorize payment of real and personal property taxes in installments, which is what we have now, with the due dates being whatever we chose, by either physical delivery to the tax collector before 5 p.m. on that date, or delivery to town hall postmarked on before that date, depending on whether there is a desire to allow postmarks as proof of on-time delivery. So those are the ones that we can possibly consider. I put them in a list because they were pursuant to property taxes. The only one that I did not include was one that authorized penalties for installments, late installments, because I figured if we were trying to relieve the burden, we wouldn't want that one, but that's another option.
Thank you. Sorry, did I interrupt?
No, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for an excellent explanation as usual. I have just a question to clarify concerning the final one about payment of taxes in installments. Are there numbers of annual installments that are allowed? For example, we know we have 3, so that's allowed. Is there a range that is specified? We may have, say, 3 through 5 or something like that.
It does not say in this warning, and I did not actually, honest with you, I didn't look that up by statute, but I would assume that if there was a limit, they would have told us. So I guess we could have, 10 if we wanted.
I don't think so. I think the limit's 4.
You think? Where is that?
I saw it in a state statute somewhere.
Hold on. Karen has
I don't know if I have
late-breaking information.
No, I'm certain it's 4.
Okay.
I would have to get the statute, Mr. Behrman.
Well, that's okay. I know I blindsided you there, and as always, you need to look it up. I was just curious because I realized I've never checked that either. I know 3 is possible, and I suppose 4 is. That sounds reasonable. And of course, what this means is that if voters would like to, this is something that voters have the right to decide at town meeting. Voters, if they wish, can petition a town meeting to make this decision.
Yep, they can do that as well. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay, thank you. All right, so what do we want to do here? I think among the ones that I think would be the least disruptive, the last one would be the least disruptive to the town. But I do hear that we would have to reprint tax bills to accommodate the new tax dates. It may cause a problem with revenue. I don't know.
It depends on when the date would be set.
Right. The school payment, I think you told us the school payment is due 30 days after any installment, right?
No, it's 20.
Okay, but it's after the
collection.
Okay.
Yep.
And if we go to 4,
So if we went
it's
to 4,
after,
it would be still after.
We pay the state 4 times for.
Yeah, I'd have to see how that works.
Okay.
Sounds like we should table this and think about it next week, talk about a little more, do a little more research on some stuff.
Okay, does somebody want to, Fletcher, what's your feeling? Oh, you're muted. Okay.
I'm wondering if we did this at a special meeting, is the purpose of the special meeting to make it effective in the next tax year? Because if we don't do it before a regular town meeting, then we'd be another year behind.
No, the point would be to change the payments of our current tax year. And I did double check with VLCT that would be allowed.
On your last point, I'd say if you eliminate the penalty on the installments, you're going to try to work exactly contrary to what the town manager commented on earlier about receiving some payments in advance. If you eliminate the penalty on the installment, there's going to be people who aren't going to pay anything till the last minute. And it's exactly the opposite of what the town manager was saying she appreciated, which is getting some payments ahead of time.
Yeah, so I don't think there's that's a good point, but I don't think we have a penalty on the installments. It's only on the last payment.
The very last payment.
But there's interest.
There's interest.
There's interest.
So
Okay.
it's 1% the first 3 months, and then it's 1.5% starting the 4th month.
Okay, so I mean, I only didn't include it because I thought we didn't have interest. Didn't need to not include it. If that was
okay.
So can I just be clear? At this point, we have a percentage on late payments, but we don't have a penalty till the last installment.
We have interest right now. And then the very last installment, third installment,
Right,
there's an 8% penalty on the balance,
okay. Got it.
Plus interest.
plus their interest, right?
Okay.
Which,
So the 8% penalty is like a one-time thing, but interest does still accrue.
that's right.
Okay.
Yeah. And interest notices go out every month. So,
All right. Okay.
I don't know, the things that appeal to me, and I don't know how useful they are to other people.
Right.
You know, so in a way it's hard to gauge. Do we do all this, make all this effort, and then it's not really that useful to people? You know, grace period appeals to me, you know, of certain number of days. But I recognize that it causes problems. You know, but maybe if it's a grace period that extends only until the education taxes, the payments are due, I don't know. It just seems like, and then, so that's the one of all of them that seems to me that might be helpful, but I don't know that it's worth going through all the rigmarole of doing all this. I just don't know that it's going to make that big of a difference if people still have to pay the, you know, it's just not going to make that big of a difference. I think maybe we just aim for next at town meeting, you know, look then to change it to 4 payments instead of 3. And if we draft a letter that we send to the state as the Putney Select Board, you know, asking the state to do what they can do on the homestead declaration.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah. Okay. Does that sound good to you, Fletcher?
Yeah, I'm really not impressed that we need to go to the length of a special town meeting to address. I don't think that I'm not seeing enough being accomplished to incur both the hassle and the expense of a special meeting.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And maybe we revisit it after we're through with, I mean, although at that point we're
sort of getting into, right. I mean, it's almost
town meeting anyways.
It's
you know.
4 months, you know.
Yeah, we're sort of snowballing into budget season and town meeting already.
Yeah.
So
Right.
If you need examples for the letter to the state,
Yeah.
please ask.
Okay.
I have a dozen of them.
okay, why don't you send those along?
Not a dozen. Why don't we send 2?
Send some good ones. Send some that actually like did something, like got their attention.
It passed. The bill passed.
Well, and I feel like it's the least we can do for the folks of Putney as select board. You know, the least we can do is lodge a complaint as a select board.
I mean, and I've taken a lot of feedback about the taxes, and people have been sending out a lot of great ideas about how we can, you know, solve this. And I've had the unfortunate honor to tell them that basically that all of those were great ideas and there was nothing we could do except for these things. And so I wanted to bring these forward to talk about them because they are the things that we can do. But I do recognize that they're not really substantive. Yeah. And so we'll move forward with trying to get the state to give us more leeway. I mean, also in the future, we need to find more revenue that's not property tax, and the state needs to allow us to do that. And we need the state to put some effort into reimbursing the towns for some pretty significant losses of revenue due to exemptions and other things. So I think it's really important that we do speak out and lobby our legislators. That's what they're there for. Mr. Fairman?
Madam Chair, I'm going to ask a public question that I would anticipate being answered at your next public meeting, probably, for our town manager or the listers, and that is for an analysis of how many, of what proportion of town of Putney property tax bills increased, what proportion decreased, and what proportion remained effectively the same level. Because there must be some of each, and it would be very interesting to in assessing what the predicament we're in here to know what those numbers are. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. That would take some analysis, but the data's there. Was there other public comment in the room? Other comments on the select board? Fletcher, do you have anything else?
In regard to Mr. Fairman's last comment, I would refer him to Mr. Dudney.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say too.
Yeah, okay.
I think he's done enough.
So I provided more information to Ron Dudney. I just want to put this on record too, because here's the other component to all of this. So there's 1,193 parcels total in Putney. So 1,018 parcels are taxable. 565 taxable parcels are homesteads.
Okay.
Okay, that means the rest are none. Okay.
Yeah.
Wait.
So,
Say that again, that particular number again.
565.
565 out of
1,018
of taxable parcels, right? So not
taxable.
Okay.
Taxable.
Right.
So the 565 taxable parcels are homesteads. Okay, so that's your higher tax bracket, right? Because your non-homestead are lower. That's the other thing you need to lobby at the state.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So the disparity is right here in the grand list, you know? And I've always said, being in my office and seeing these numbers, you know, Putney is property tax exempt. We are rich and we're poor in property tax revenue. And we need to be creative. We've been talking about it for a while now.
Yeah.
But I also think we need to go to the state.
Yeah.
Because our hands are kind of tied and there's only so much we can do.
Right. Yeah. And a lot of the exempted properties are by state statute, so it's not like we're making them exempt. I mean, I guess we as communities are making them exempt because people are creating these great organizations that are then exempt, and they do great work, but they are lost revenue for the town. Mr. Freeman?
Madam Chair, regarding a select person's comment referring me to some apparently private citizen of whom I have not heard, I simply note and reiterate that my request is for official information, which I assume is held by our town manager or our town listers. Thank you.
The data is available through the listers. I don't know if they're going to be able to do that analysis. But the data is there and it's all public information.
KRT might be able to do it.
They might, for a fee.
If it's small, it'd be worth it.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it would be that hard to run those numbers.
You know, it's basic.
categories.
It's basic math. It's just that it takes takes time to collate it and
There's
filter it out.
parcels.
Yeah, and it's NIMRIC data, so
They do the magic, don't they?
Peg is going to do some.
You want to help Jordy because he is the only one that's actually.
Yeah, I mean, I think that analysis would be a good thing for the town to take on, but this is actually quite. The listers are busy, the BCAs, everybody's really kind of busy with BCA stuff right now, so it might be a while, Mr. Fairman, but the data is there.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, I think we've agreed to move forward on this one, right?
Yeah.
And you're gonna send us some letters.
Yeah.
We'll bring that forward. That's what we're gonna have on our next agenda, I guess, Karen.
Okay.
Select board letter to the legislature. Okay. The next piece is the controlling the use. Thank you, John. Controlling the use of alcoholic beverages on town property ordinance. I haven't done much on this, except for change one shall to will, because you were gonna send me the facilities use agreement, and you promised it was gonna make everything become clear.
Oh, I didn't do it.
So I never got that, so I don't, it's not clear still to me.
Yeah, my fault.
So
I apologize.
If people have other comments on this, we can comment on it and I can change other things, otherwise you can move on. Fletcher, have you had a chance to read it? Since I took your version and my version and tried to meld them?
Yeah, I mean, the two comments that are noted in the margin, the waiver fee, Article 4, and the enforcement under the second Article 4.
Oh, whoops. I thought I changed that.
I thought the waiver fee was something that the court system applies to any fine. I haven't seen a criminal statute that had the waiver fee included in the penalty. So I assume that was something the court system just did, but I may be mistaken. And about enforcement, both the sheriffs and the state police certainly have jurisdiction to enforce a local ordinance. Well, I suspect if we asked the sheriff's department to do it, they would do it. I suspect if we asked the state police to do it, it would occupy exactly the same priority in their activities as it occupied before we asked them.
Okay. Yeah, the waiver thing was in there because when I took the ordinance class with Karen and
VLCT.
With VLCT, they recommended that you put the waiver fee in your ordinance so that you don't have to go to court. So that's why it's sitting there. That's all. Go ahead. Fletcher, did you have something to say?
No, I just say the VLCT makes a good point about the waiver fee.
Okay. Mr. Fairman?
Pardon me. Madam Chair, just to clarify, does any of this concern involve people leaving licensed premises with alcoholic beverages?
Well, yeah, kind of. I mean, it's basically prohibiting alcoholic consumption on public property unless they have a permit.
The reason I asked is because then you would have a third source of enforcement, which is the Vermont Department of Liquor Control inspectors, who are in fact law enforcement officers. Because it is not allowed for people who hold liquor licenses are not allowed to serve patrons and then have patrons wander off whatever the licensed premises are as per their liquor license.
Okay, that's good to know. Does anybody have any other comments on this recent iteration? Karen's gonna get me the document that makes it all clear.
I promise.
Okay, so we'll put that back on next week, next meeting. All right. So moving on to Select Board Reports, Cannabis Control Board.
Yeah, not much to report. I sent over the information to Rachel and John about the virtual meeting that Vermont's Cannabis Control Board will be having, and I believe that they both would like to attend.
Okay.
So a little bit more information gathering.
That's okay, good. That was the email that we got today.
Potentially.
Okay.
I didn't see it.
Okay. All right. Next is the Recreation Department Committee. That's you also, Nate.
Yeah, awesome. Karen sent out an email the other week with potential interested parties for the Recreation Committee. So hopefully we're going to meet on October 17th at 4:30 to have our first meeting.
Okay, all right, cool. The next three are yours, Fletcher, and the public participation review, we took that off of the agenda for this week because we weren't sure if you were gonna be able to make it or not, so we can put it back on for next meeting, if you like.
That would be fine. These three, C and the second A, I haven't done anything, I haven't made any progress on. The Solar Advisory Committee, I met with the town manager and to get some ideas. We're supposed to come up with a charge for that committee, and it's feeling a little indefinite to me, but I will keep working on that. The 1% local tax, I think what I need to do is just sort of write up a memo on how that statute works. I went through the statute, and we have a certain amount of latitude in how we might want to adopt it. The most of the questions at town meeting were about how it would actually, what the mechanics of it would actually be. And I think the mechanics are actually, there was a lot of confusion, but I don't think it's really that confusing. The state will administer it essentially for us. The bad news is they'll take a cut for doing it.
Yeah.
So when you start at 1% and start shaving it down, you're not left with a heck of a lot.
That's another thing we could talk to the legislature about.
It really feels sort of unfair. I mean, because the administrative fee, it's all done by a computer. I mean, whatever they send out, it's just, they're running it through their computer. It's not like somebody's putting a lot of effort into it. So you'd think they could give us back. But again, you're right. Talk to your legislator.
Okay, so yeah, if you could write up a memo, and then yeah, if you can make it, if you can explain it to people in a way that we were not able to explain it last year, that would be really, that would get us much further along.
Will do.
Okay, great. Mr. Fairman? Mr. Fairman, you're muted.
Thank you. Madam Chair, I agree with the select person who spoke previously that the state obviously is making out like a bandit on this one, quite literally. I just wanted to mention that on the Vermont Department of Taxes website, one can see in some detail the rooms and meals and goods and services tax receipts in the town of Putney, and can come up with a fairly good estimate of how much revenue would be realized. I took a look at it briefly, and it isn't a whole lot of money. So this is something we should look at. And one thing we're constrained with here is, especially concerning the liquor tax, there are so few liquor licenses here for class 1 and 3 licenses that they don't publish the information because it would be possible to invade the business's privacy. So with that in mind, it could be useful to take a look at the potential actual receipts of levying this tax, especially if we look at our proportion of it after the state is done with taking its cut. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments on the 1%? Good. All right. So we're going to put public participation back on the agenda for the next week, the next meeting, which feels like next week. Okay.
I just want to say something about the public participation thing. Fletcher, what do you think about, I mean, it seems like the public participation review, it feels like a big issue to me. You know, it really feels like kind of a, how do we as a select board, what is the culture that we want to create around public participation? And it feels like it's bigger than just it just feels big and important to me. And I just wonder about whether doing it at a select board meeting is the best place to have that bigger conversation. And I wonder whether maybe if we did it had that conversation at the next working, our work sessions that we have where we have more time, and I just wonder whether you would be open to that.
I have no problem with that.
I just think it would be, I just think we'd get further and we'd get a better result if we had more time to do it, in a setting like that.
Okay.
How about anybody else? Is anybody opposed to that? Is there an urgency to do it? Because we probably wouldn't have another work session.
I mean,
for a
if we
little
do
while.
have a work session, it's probably gonna be about budget, so.
Correct.
Right, so it probably wouldn't be until when?
I mean, we normally adopt our public, oh gosh, what's that called? Rules of procedure, that's what we call those, in which there's a piece in there that talks about public participation. We usually adopt that around March when we reorg.
But
so
don't we have time in between after the budget gets
we
made
might
and before town meeting,
Yes, you might
in
have,
there's
yeah,
a window where I think we might be able to,
Okay.
Just commit to a meeting where we're really digging into that. If people weren't opposed to that, I'd like that, because I think it's a really important topic too, and I think we could do better in that setting.
Okay. Does that work for you, Fletcher?
That's fine with me. I mean, it's, I have no particular timeline on this.
Okay.
All right.
Cool.
So I guess then we're not going to put it on next week's agenda, meeting's agenda, but it'll be a topic for the next work session that's not budget.
Right. The first work session that's not a budget session.
All right.
Thanks, Fletcher.
Okay. So then we probably want to take it out of the reports too,
I think let's leave it there.
Leave it there because those are the things.
Yeah.
Okay.
Leave it there.
Sorry. Don't touch. Okay. So alternative transportation advisory committee, haven't worked on it. Highway access policy, it's got your name on it, and then event ordinance.
Got nothing for you.
Okay, good. We're all not doing stuff all at once. That's not true. We're doing a lot. We're just doing other things. So that's why it's on this list, so we don't forget that there are other things that we want to be doing. Do we need an executive session?
No.
Okay.
Unless somebody else needs one.
No, I don't.
Thank you.
Okay, so the next meeting date is October 16th, 2024. That is our regularly scheduled meeting on a Wednesday at 5 p.m. at the town hall and on Zoom. Can I hear a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
For a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Fletcher said yes. Okay, good. All right, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Fletcher.